Welcome to episode 9 of the Pro Overwatch News Recap. Things have been heating up dramatically since the previous episode, and it honestly kind of feels like this league has been turned upside down in the matter of a few days. This week has been absurdly wild, so let's just get straight into it. So the big news I wanted to begin this episode with is the Vancouver Titans. I covered it in a previous video, but Fissure has officially signed with the team, and anybody who followed the leaks on Twitter was kind of already aware, but it's still absurd nonetheless. It still blows my mind that Fissure decided to come out of retirement and that he'd end up playing for the Vancouver Titans. I'm not sure how good of a teammate he'll be compared to Bumper, but I think he probably has the better hero pool and is a bit more skilled mechanically. Because I spent extensive amounts of time discussing this Fissure move in a previous video, I'm going to leave it there and move on, so if you want to hear all of my thoughts, then make sure to check out that video after you're done listening to this one, of course. But there's actually some other Fissure news that I've yet to talk about here on the channel. So on the Overwatch League's disciplinary page on their website, they have stated that Fissure will be fined $3,000 as a punishment for sharing confidential league information. For those who weren't already aware, during Fissure's stream right after he retired, he leaked that the 222 Rolock rumors were true before any official confirmation came out. This Fissure leak thing has been a topic for a while now, and even Monte Cristo was curious as to what might happen if he comes back to the league. Punishment seemed likely, but how severe it would be was up for debate. In my opinion, finding him was a good call, but I wonder if they should have suspended him for like a couple of games as well. Even though it was already heavily rumored we'd be getting 222, this information still was confidential at the end of the day. I'm glad the league took action because I personally think it was necessary. Moving on from the Fissure thing though, the Titans also followed up by officially confirming that Ryujehong will be joining the team. Again, like with Fissure, this was leaked a while back, but even after it becoming official, it still doesn't feel real. Seeing Jaehong not wearing black and gold will definitely take some getting used to, whether you're a Seoul fan or not. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really don't know how much playtime he'll get on the Vancouver Titans. Since he's competing with arguably the #1 flex support in the league for stage time, I think Jaehong could have his work cut out for him if he wants to play. But who knows, the Titans may have some sort of plan. With traveling and burnout probably being more prevalent this year, Vancouver may look to rest Twilight here and there during some matches, and I think the team likely wouldn't suffer performance-wise since they have Jaehong, who is a star in his own right. Although, maybe Jaehong will get to be some sort of map specialist, I guess. Perhaps he'll play on like the escort maps or something while Twilight plays the rest. It's also important to bring up that Jaehong does provide good veteran presence and leadership qualities. I really am unsure of what kind of role Jaehong will have with this team, and I am concerned that he will be riding the bench, but who am I to say that Jaehong doesn't want to be in this type of role to begin with? I know it may sound silly, but maybe he wants to take it easy this time around. Maybe he's tired of being dependent on so much. A lesser role could be something he legitimately wanted. With how insane this offseason has been, I really don't want to rule out anything. The possibilities are kind of endless. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to bring up in regards to Jaehong is this really heartwarming goodbye post made by the Seoul Dynasty. In it, they thank him for being so committed to the Dynasty for the 2018 and 2019 seasons. And most importantly, the team is retiring his jersey number, which in my opinion is one of the ultimate ways for a team to respect one of their former players. For those who don't really watch American sports, teams often retire the jersey number of their most beloved stars. It's a sign of respect. These players are of such legendary status that the team feels nobody else should ever be allowed to wear that number while playing for their franchise. Seoul is recognizing that Jaehong is of legendary status when it comes to playing for this franchise. I honestly would have been surprised if they didn't retire his number. Not only was he a legend on the Dynasty, but on Lunatic High as well. Good on the Dynasty for showing the utmost respect towards one of the legends of Pro Overwatch. The next piece of Vancouver Titans news we have to discuss is Bumper officially getting released from the roster, and I honestly just can't believe it. I really can't. We knew the Titans were looking to trade Bumper because of the rumors on social media, but never did I ever think they'd just straight up release him. I guess they couldn't find a trade partner for some reason. We now live in a world, by the way, where Bumper does not currently have an Overwatch League team. Think about that for a second. This is real life, ladies and gentlemen. Like with the Fissure signing, I went into detail about my thoughts on why the Titans may have wanted to get rid of Bumper. So just to summarize, I think he either had some sort of disagreement with the organization or some teammates, or someone on that team wanted him gone. Something had to have happened that made the relationship with Bumper and the Vancouver Titans turn sour. Perhaps Bumper wanted out after he got benched in favor of Teasy in the playoffs. I find it very hard to believe that they just get rid of Bumper and replace him with Fissure for skill reasons alone. To be honest, I don't like this one bit. Unless Bumper was really causing some serious problems, I think this was foolish. From what I could tell, Bumper was the leader of the Vancouver Titans. Not only that, but he's been here since the very beginning. He is one of the OG members of Runaway that never left. He's been through so much with this team, and now it's all over. Very risky move made by the Titans here. Fissure has some big shoes to fill. I'm confident he can make the same types of plays as Bumper, but will he keep a level head and have good enough synergy? How will the comms be affected? And how about the playstyle? What's going to happen there? There's a lot to consider here. The Vancouver Titans could really end up regretting this. I think that if one thing goes wrong, this could really blow up in their faces. As for all my Bumper fans who are watching this video, don't be worried about him. I 1000% believe he will find a new team before the season even begins. He is far too talented, and there's definitely some potential options out there for him. He could maybe go to the Dragons, or the Fusion, and is it crazy to say he could even join the Houston Outlaws? With Meko and Rappel already getting picked up, why not Bumper too? Plus, he'd be reunited with his coach Harsha, who was his coach during Season 2. I know we make fun of Bumper for being crazy aggressive, but he's a really good player. He's mechanically gifted, and he generates a lot of space for his team. Don't be concerned, Bumper fans. I'm sure he's going to find a new team real soon. Make sure to let me know where you think Bumper goes down in the comment section, by the way. I'm very curious. Oh, and speaking of the Houston Outlaws, let's transition over to them now since Hureg was picked up as a new assistant coach. I thought Hureg would get a job somewhere in this league, but I was not expecting it to happen so soon, nor did I think he would go to the Outlaws of all teams. I've said it before, but I think Hureg could make for a really good coach. He has a lot of experience and has been a part of many winning cultures. He also seems like he'd just be really good at instructing people. Now, I can't guarantee any of this is true, but in my opinion, he's the type of person who just gives off those types of vibes. He seems like somebody who's going to be a very effective coach who players want to work under and learn from. In Houston, though, let's just talk about them for a second because they've been full of surprises this offseason. Gotta give it up to them for making so many great moves that nobody really saw coming. Right now, the Outlaws are one of the biggest winners of free agency. Now, how about the Philly Fusion? To continue their successful offseason, they started by signing the former Runaway DPS player Heesu. It's also worth noting that before he joined Runaway, he was part of Element Mystic. So needless to say, this guy has experience playing for some really well-known teams. During his time in Contenders, he played Hitscan and Zarya for the most part. With the Fusion already having Carpe, it's hard to imagine how big of a role he'll be playing. In my opinion, he's still a good piece to have though in the end. He could serve as a good replacement if Carpe were to ever suffer from burnout, but also if Carpe goes through any cold streaks like we saw him do during Season 2 sometimes, then that might be a good time to put Heesu in as well. It's also worth mentioning that he won't be eligible to play in any games until he turns 18 on March 25th. He'll miss about a month of action. Next up, I thought I'd quickly reiterate that Chipsa has been signed by the Philly Fusion. I'm sure that most of you were already aware of this and you've seen something somewhere on the internet about it, but I thought that maybe some people may have missed it, so let's go over it real quick. Because I've given my opinion on it in a video completely dedicated to this piece of news, I recommend checking out that video after you're done here if you want to know what I think about the Chipsa signing. But to give a general sum up, I was pretty caught off guard by it. Chipsa in the Overwatch League just doesn't sound right at all, but he has a good Doomfist, and he's decent at some of the projectile heroes, so maybe he'll get some playtime. But with the Fusion already having a lot of DPS players on their roster to begin with, the move is quite questionable, especially when you consider that they still have one main tank player on their roster. But this Chipsa signing has done more than just shock the world. It's basically just flipped the planet upside down thanks to Jane exploding on Twitter with discontent. I don't like to cover drama on the channel, so I'll make sure to say all of this stuff quick and to the point. So basically, Jane believes that nepotism is afoot. For those of you who don't know what nepotism is, basically it means to be in favor of somebody you're close with when you have power, especially when it comes to giving out jobs. And since Chipsa's brother Christopher is a coach on the Fusion, Jane thinks that this is very fishy. Jane also has said that he believes it's unfair to see a popular streamer like Chipsa get into the league over those who have been grinding through the path to pro and contenders. Unfortunately for Jane though, a lot of people are currently not on his side. He has some good intentions, but the way he approached it has made him look really bad. Calling out Chipsa in the Fusion makes him look bad enough, but also going out and making accusations without evidence has made it even worse. When you call the Fusion a shady org, who is going to believe you if you don't back it up with some evidence? Anyway though, I really don't like getting into drama on this channel, so I'm going to stop myself here. Before I move on though, shout out to my Discord mod Thor for making this awesome new graphic to help promote the Discord. He does some really good work for me, so make sure to give him some love if you see him around on the server or in my comment section. Anyway though, let's discuss the Shanghai Dragons now. Back on the 25th of November, they officially announced the signing of Stan 1, Void, Ryujehong, and Lip. Let's talk about what these guys bring to the table, shall we? Starting with Stan 1, he's a main tank player who played in North American Contenders most recently for the Gladiators Legion. I've actually watched a fair amount of him throughout the last year or so, and I have to say that I like what I see. I don't believe he'll be dominating the moment he joins the league, but the potential is definitely there. In my opinion, he has a good Reinhardt, and he can play alright on both Orisa and Winston. Shanghai currently only have one main tank player, so if the season were to start today, then he would be the guaranteed starter. Moving on from Stan 1 though, we have Void, and with him being in the league for 2 seasons already, no introduction is really required at this point, but in my opinion, Void has always been a very good player. I honestly think he's a little on the underrated side too. He was arguably the most consistent player on the Gladiators in Season 2. He has a really good diva in Zarya, and he was alright on Sigma during the playoffs. Void put up some really good numbers last year, but it feels like they're going pretty underappreciated for some reason. If you ask me, Void is a definite upgrade over Envy and Giguri. And speaking of Envy, I would not be surprised if he's on his way out one of these days. He has stated that while he is on the Dragons, he is allowed to look for new opportunities. So if any team shows the slightest interest in him, I expect Envy to be transferred immediately. I highly doubt Shanghai wants 3 off-tank players on their roster. That seems like a big waste if you ask me. I'm happy with the way Shanghai's tank line is looking though. I'm a fan of both Stand 1 and Void. I doubt they'll be a top tier tank line or anything, but I still think they'll be pretty decent. Next up though is Ryujehong, who played main support on Runaway for about a year. During his time spent there, he helped the team win 2 contenders titles. I personally haven't watched him play all that much, but I hear nothing but good things about him all the time. I've heard some analysts even call him the best main support coming out of the tier 2 scene this year, and if that's the case, then good for Shanghai. I can see why they dropped Koma now. It's a shame though because Koma was pretty good, but maybe Ryujehong is just a better piece in this type of system. Then there's Lip, who played DPS on the struggling Korean contenders team known as Blossom. Blossom has never really done all that well in Korean contenders, and they've had to fight their way back into it through trials multiple times. Lip in particular is primarily known for hit scan, so he'll likely be a backup for DM if I had to take a guess, but who knows? Lip could end up being really good. He's on the team for a reason, right? He doesn't have the accolades that other Korean DPS players have, but maybe he dominated everybody else during his tryouts or something. With Lip now on the roster, that gives Shanghai a total of 5 DPS players if you count Dia, who is now on a 2-way contract. With Shanghai's roster sitting at 12 players, they are pretty much done for the offseason unless they plan to trade or release anybody. Some other Shanghai news I have for you though is the addition of 2 new assistant coaches who go by the names of Jae-Feel and Dongsu. Both of them already have Overwatch League experience under their belts, as Jae-Feel was a coach on the London Spitfire for 2 years, and Dongsu was on the Valiant for a few months in 2019. That gives the Dragons a coaching staff consisting of Coach Moon as head coach, with Creed, Jae-Feel, and Dongsu as assistants. Next up on the agenda is the NYXL, who announced the signing of main support player Mandu. He most recently played on O2 Blast for about 7 months. He's known for his Lucio and Baptiste, and is currently not old enough to play in the league. With Mandu not turning 18 until June 3rd, he'll miss a large majority of the season before he's eligible to play. The good news though is that Animo is still there, so he probably won't even be missed. Like with Ryujehong, I've not watched a lot of Mandu, but I know that he's been receiving a lot of hype, so I consider this to be a pretty good pickup. At the very least, he'll serve as a really good backup, but who knows? Maybe New York plans to utilize him once he turns 18. With New York getting Hoppa and Bianca, while also being rumored to have signed Who Are You, it would appear that this team is ready to change into a more aggressive playstyle after 2 years of playing the same way essentially. And with Animo being more on the passive side, Mandu might work better if New York is considering a style change. And this just in, the NYXL picked up Why Not as a new assistant coach. Other than him maybe having the best name ever, you should know that he already has coaching experience in the league as he was part of the Dynasty for about a year, and before that, he coached O2 Ardia on Contenders. He was also a former player back in 2016 and 2017. He has a pretty good pedigree if you ask me. That puts the NYXL at 4 coaches total by the way, so it looks like their new staff for 2019 is just about complete, coaching staff wise at least. Moving on to the Florida Mayhem, they have announced the re-signing of many of their players who were under a team option. Over the last couple of days, they welcomed Chris, Byram, BQB, Karyan, and Gargoyle back to the team. Strangely enough, they also did the same for Saya player, even though I'm pretty sure he was already under contract. So either the Overwatch League's website is wrong, or Florida just like telling us that he's back anyway for 2020, even though we already knew. Anyway though, I can't really say I'm surprised to see any of these guys come back. Saya player is probably the most popular player on the team, so of course he'd get re-signed. Then Gargoyle showed a lot of good flashes in Stage 4, especially on Roadhog, and the Mayhem management has said that they want him to be a part of their future plans. Plus BQB is another guy who really showed up during that successful Stage 4, and I think he'd make for a really good option off the bench. With them currently having no other main support, it kind of makes sense to see Chris return, even though he was kind of average in 2019. Then there's Byram, who the team seems to really like from what I've learned. He will also probably be a backup if I had to take a guess with them recently adding Runaway Flex support Gangnam Jin. And if Fate is 100% coming back, then Karyan should serve as a nice backup too. I've heard people say that he has potential and that his Reinhardt is pretty good, but we really didn't see him in action all that much during Season 2, so it's hard to say how high his skill ceiling is. And yeah, that's basically it for this episode, so if you did enjoy, then I would appreciate it if you could hit that like button and sub to my channel if you're new, and make sure to let me know what you think of all of these off-season moves down in the comment section. And if you want to further support me, you can follow me on Twitter at ATP Overwatch or join my Discord server through the link in the description. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's video, I really do appreciate it, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.